Jai Shri Shishiku Gaur Chandraju Ki Jai. Jai Shri Giraju Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Srila Bhakti Rakrak Sridhar Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Jai Srimati Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Welcome to Sri Chaitanya Saraswat Mission Morning Class Dandavat. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Chita Parakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitangstam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitangscha Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Parantikam. Haribo Jai Sri Chaitanya Charitamrta Ki Jai. This is Adi Lila chapter 4, the confidential reasons for the Lord's appearance. So I'll go back a few verses, approaching these confidential reasons for the Lord's appearance, knowing that these are the real gifts that Mahaprabhu has given that are very, 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 very exclusive in this particular Kali Yuga. In whatever way my devotees surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Prita. Haribo, Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya, Jai Nityananda, Jai Dvaita Chandra, Jai Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Jai Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Ki Jai. Srila Om Vishnupad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. And then, if one cherishes pure loving devotion to me, thinking me as his son, his friend, or his beloved, regarding himself as great, and considering me his equal or inferior, I become subordinate to him. So this is not thinking of self great like we think ourselves great in this mundane world. Borrowing from the material nature and making a business with it. They're thinking they're great, meaning I am depending upon them in that sense. And he does become dependent upon such a devotee. So this very sweet and wonderful quality of those Brajabasi devotees. Mai bhaktir hi bhutanam amritatvaya kalpate drishchit yan asinmat sneho bhavati namadapanaha. Devotional service rendered to me by the living beings revives their eternal life. So if we're wondering how to revive our eternal life, there it is. Devotional service rendered to me by the living beings revives their eternal life. O my dear damsels of Braja, your affection for me is your good fortune, for it is the only means by which you have obtained my favor. But of course, devotional service is on different levels, and we are now practitioners. But when real devotion awakens in the heart, then that is very glorious. Pure devotional service is represented in the activities of the residents of Brajabhumi, Vrindavan. During a solar eclipse, the Lord came from Dwaraka and met the inhabitants of Vrindavan at Samanta Panchaka. The meeting was intensely painful for the damsels of Brajabhumi because Lord Krishna had apparently left them aside at to reside at Dwarka. But the Lord obligingly acknowledged the pure devotional service of the damsel of Braja by speaking this verse. That we just read. Mata more putra bhave karena bandana atina jnane kare lalana palana. Mother sometimes binds me as her son. She nourishes and protects me, thinking me utterly helpless. Did you hear that?
Who's feeling helpless?
Okay, I'm going to be questioning through here. Are you hearing me, Damodar? Yeah. Hearing this? Mother, Krishna is saying this. Mother sometimes binds me as her son. She nourishes and protects me, thinking me utterly helpless. Shaka shuddha sakye kare skande arohana tumikon badaloka tumia mishama. My friends climb on my shoulders in pure friendship, saying, "What kind of big man are you? You and I are equal." Priya jari manikare karaye bartsana Veda stuti haite hare se moramana. If my beloved consort reproaches me in a sulky mood, that steals my mind from the reverent hymns of the Vedas. So, if my beloved consort approaches me, even in a mood which is not seeming to cooperate with me at all, against me, then that steals my mind from the reverent verses of the Veda. So everyone is trying to, who is Brahminical or a sadhu sage, they're trying to quote the Vedas, sing those hymns. He's not very much. But if someone is opposing me in divine love, that is so beautiful to me. But we have to understand that we have no idea what that mood is. It is so pure. It is only to please Krishna. We have no concept that these things happen in the mundane world also. But that's in the different matter altogether. The informal language used between lover and beloved is indicative of pure affection. In this case, when devotees worship their beloved as the most venerable object, spontaneous loving sentiments are observed to be lacking when there's too much formality. A neophyte devotee who follows the Vedic instructions that regulate those who lack pure love of Godhead may superficially seem more exalted than a devotee in spontaneous love of God because he's very well behaved. But in fact, such spontaneous pure love is far superior to regulated devotional service. Now, there has been, and I've seen in many cases, an idea that to give up the regulated life and just become spontaneously revolting and degraded and do anything and everything is closer to spontaneous love of God. It is not. We give up the lower thing for a higher thing, not for an even lower thing. Like, I have to be spontaneous, Prabhu. No, we have to regulate ourselves at this point. And I'm talking about, like just doing anything and everything with our time and no discipline. That this is somehow or other a higher thing than regulating our lives in devotional life. That will degrade us, actually. So we have to understand that there's a higher thing that we can give up a lower thing for. But if we give up something for a lower thing, then we'll get the result of that. Such pure love of Godhead is always glorious in all respects. There's no selfishness in it at all. There's no tinge of self-interest, no thought of oneself. We hear about this in Brajabhumi. There's no thought like that. Such pure love of Godhead is always glorious in all respect, more so than reverential devotional service rendered by a less affectionate devotee. So we have to understand these things very carefully and soberly. Any question about any of that?
No, but what is took in me is not changing a higher, something higher for something lower. And that we must
What?
remain. That we must remain regulated, not because this is a spontaneity.
Yeah, we don't. So, Pujala Ragapata Gaurava Bange, Matara Harijana. We have to understand that we are worshipping Ragapata. We're worshipping that plane of pure devotion. That is above us. Pujala Ragapata. But we are engaged in Hari Kirtan and the devotional practices, but with surrender. We have to always keep surrender in our devotional practices. And that is the main heartbeat. That is the heart of our practicing life, the life of it. But, we want to be spontaneous, man. So, I don't really feel like getting up this morning, so I have to, that is not going to take us upward. To go to the plane of raga bhakti is not so easy. So there's some regulation, some structure in our lives to help us to stay in a stable position while we're practicing surrender. This is important, very important. The mind is as tricky as a snake. It'll cause spontaneity. It'll confuse one thing for another in a minute, and we will become sahajas or mayavadis easily, very easy to fall into those things. E Shuddha Bhaktalanya Karimu Avatara Kariva Vividha Vidha Adbhuta Vihara Vaikunta Nahi Je Lila Ra Prachara Se Lila Kariba Jate Mora Chamatkara. You know the word chamatkar, you guys? Very popular in Italy. It means astonishing. This is very popular everywhere because this is a very word commonly used in Chaitanya Charitamrta. But it's chamatkar, it's a wonderful thing. Taking these pure devotees with me, I shall descend and sport in various wonderful ways, unknown even in Vaikunta. I shall broadcast such pastimes by which even I am amazed. So who's saying this? Yes, the Lord. The Lord in the form of Lord Chaitanya educates his devotees to develop progressively to the stage of pure devotional service. Thus he appears periodically as a devotee to take part in various wonderful activities depicted in his sublime philosophy and teachings. So let us not remember that Vaikunta is a plane of pure devotional service. Pure devotion, real spiritual life it starts in Vaikunta, not in heaven or in the Brahmajyoti or anything like that. But it is tinged with formality. It is the nature of those devotees to be formal with the Lord, to have some wonder and some reverence for the Lord. But higher devotion can develop, and that is the gift of Mahaprabhu, in which everything is spontaneous. Therefore, Lord Shri Krishna presents his most confidential pastimes as he enjoys them in his transcendental realm. Such pastimes are so attractive that they even attract the Lord, and thus he relishes them in the form of Lord Chaitanya. Any question? Mo bishaye gopikanera upapati bhave yogamaya karibeka apana prabhave. The influence of Yogamaya will inspire the gopis with the sentiment that I am their paramour. The influence of Yogamaya. Yogamaya is the consort of Lord Balaram. And Lord Balaram sets the stage for all of the pastimes of the Lord. And Yogamaya arranges the circumstances and influences the internal inspiration, I guess you could say, for different kinds of service under different circumstances. So here, the influence of Yogamaya will inspire the gopis with this sentiment that I am their paramour. Actually, in Vrindavan, there are no husbands. There's some kind of representation of husband, like a picture on the wall, Guru Maharaj says. Whereas in Gokula, in the mundane world, because of the environment of the world, the actual husbands are there. But paramour means I'm crossing what is very dear to civilized persons in this world. The tenets of chastity, the tenets of obedience, of following the rules and regulations of civilized, holy, scriptural, pious life, they're crossing that to serve Krishna. And they're feeling, there's some anxiety because I'm doing wrong. I'm going to get caught. But actually, there's no real husbands in Goloka. But in Gokula, there is an appearance of an actual husband. And when as the Lord's pastimes are going from universe to universe in this world. So now we're going to learn about Yogamaya. Yogamaya is the name of the internal potency that makes the Lord forget himself and become an object of love for his pure devotee in different transcendental mellows. He doesn't think I'm the Lord. He's not thinking that at all. He couldn't care less. But he can show himself as the Lord if he wants to. This Yogamaya potency creates a spiritual sentiment in the minds of the damsels of Braja by which they think of Lord Krishna as their paramour. The sentiment is never to be compared to mundane, illicit sexual love. It has nothing to do with sexual psychology, although the pure love of such devotees seems to be that way. This is like a shadow, or worse, it's like a reflection. But it's upside down, absolutely opposite. One should know for certain that nothing can exist in this cosmic manifestation that has no real counterpart in the spiritual field. So illusion is also based on reality. Without reality, there is no definition of illusion. Like a mirage in the desert, if there were no such thing as a real lake, a mirage would have no meaning. So everything is based on truth, even illusion. All material manifestations are emanations of the transcendence. The erotic principles of amorous love, reflected in mixed material values, are perverted reflections of the reality of spirit. But one cannot understand the reality unless one is sufficiently educated in spiritual science. And the pastimes of the Lord will not sit down in the same place as any of these mundane sentiments. They must be completely eradicated from the mind. Gradually, and in a gradual, regulated way in devotional life. Amiha na janitaha na jane gopigana dunhara rupa gune dunhara nitya hare mana. Neither the gopis nor I shall notice this, for our minds will always be entranced by one another's beauty and qualities. You say, we're not becoming philosophical about any of this. We're overwhelmed by each other's transcendental beauty and qualities. But this is transcendental beauty. We see some picture, or we see the divine Archa-vigraha of the Lord with these eyes, but we can, the real eye will open up with devotion and through surrender to really see what transcendental beauty really is. It is a living, conscious, divine manifestation of inconceivable attributes. Is that clear? So we're thinking beauty, we think, oh yeah, the gopis are very beautiful. We can't conceive of this type of beauty. It is not more beautiful, so we can't conceive of it. It is of a completely different quality. It is the manifestation of the heart of absolute dedication. So the form and the person in the divine realm are the same thing. Whereas our form and our self are completely different. This form and my own actual self are fully two different things. But the form of the pure devotees in Vaikuntha also, or in Ayodhya, or in Dwarka or Mathura, what to speak of Braja, those forms are the manifestation. They are non-different from the heart of the devotee. They really are who they are. So these are different things altogether. That's clear, right? So we can understand that in Vaikuntha, there is pure devotional service. We should not think that it is not pure devotional service. But the mood is very formal. So there's no children. Lakshmi and Narayan don't have any children. There is no filial love like that. There's no, parental love in Vaikuntha.
Is there any conjugal love?
Yes, but only between Lakshmi and Narayan, but it is also formal. That's why Lakshmi Devi, although she performed so many austerities to join in the Rasa dance, she's not able to do that. Her relationship, her feeling toward the Lord is very formal. She cannot conceive of the feelings of the Braja Gopis toward Krishna. They're so informal. But so this is a very important point. And so when Mahaprabhu usually comes, every Kali Yuga, Sri Chaitanya comes to spread the Hare Krishna mantra. And Vishnu Priya is his consort. She is Mahalakshmi Devi in Vaikuntha, and Gaur Narayan is Vishnu. And so Guru Maharaj is explaining that because in Dwarka there are children. That's why Dwarka is higher than Vaikuntha. Krishna and the queen, they have children. So that type of relationship exists there, although it is also very formal in one sense. It is the sons and daughters of Krishna they have great honor toward him. loving honor toward their father and mother. I've read the prayers. I think it's in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, some of the prayers of the sons of Krishna, some of the way that they address the Lord is very sweet and but formal, like a child to a son toward his father. There's some formality there, right? But so Krishna, in this incarnation, when Krishna comes when Mahaprabhu comes as Mahaprabhu, he actually, Queen Rukmini becomes Vishnu Priya. And the devotees are the children. So there's a different mood. Guru Maharaj is explaining this. I had to listen to it a few times because I'd never heard it, but it's from the Chaitanya Bhagavat. There's a verse that describes this. So it's a really interesting pastime. And as we hear, recently I was next to the ocean, and how many waves are in the ocean? I mean, you can't count the waves of a day of the ocean. And all the oceans put together in the whole universe all their waves put together cannot equal the number of pastimes of Mahaprabhu in a day. So when Krishnadas Kaviraj says, I'm only touching on a few of the pastimes of the Lord, you think, well, of course, this is not a few. But when we think about these verses describing that comparison to the ocean wave, I mean, everything about Mahaprabhu and everything about the Lord is infinite. We cannot, every drop of the Lord, every tiny, you could say, part of the Lord is infinite. There's no parameter, there's no end of it, there's no putting it within any conceivable area. So when I heard this pastime of Mahaprabhu going to Dwarka and telling Rukmini, no, you have to come with me and you have to become my consort in this particular time, and the mother of the devotees. So this is a different rasa. Vishnu Priya Devi, Lakshmi Priya Devi, they are the consorts of Mahaprabhu every time he comes, but they are not with children because they are Lakshmi and Gaur Narayan. That relationship is formal. A little formality is there. And then Mahaprabhu later on, taking sannyas, he begins his Sankirtan in full manifested form, especially in Puri. So many things. Any questions about these things?
Not specifically a question, but what you were saying about Lakshmi Devi performing austerities to enter the same pastimes as the Gopi, right?
The rasa dance,
the
yeah.
rasa dance. It made me think about a video that I was watching, a series of videos about social calibration. And this is in this mundane plane, in this mortal mundane plane, where social calibration is basically the exposition, the refinement that a person can have in different social status. For example, that someone that has never been in a very expensive restaurant for dinner is not going to speak the language. Or someone that is going to a party where people have more like status or more money is not going to speak the language. Is going to feel like he doesn't deserve this. He doesn't know the topics that people there are talking about, the jokes. It's like he has something in the forehead that says, nobody invited me here, but somehow I'm here. So it's like, doesn't speak the language because it's different status. It hasn't had the exposition before. So I guess, of course, that's just the reflection, but do you think it's kind of the same in the positive infinite plane?
Well, I mean, I can see it as kind of a vague, you know, you could, it puts you in mind of that. And I can see how that is. But these are all, like, I mean, it's not, maybe, I mean, because Lakshmi Devi is so exalted, actually. So it's kind of a not such a beautiful comparison in that sense. But I understand how that would remind you of that for sure. But we have to keep in mind, and I think that's why I was kind of feeling to reiterate that Vaikuntha is very high. I mean, Vaikuntha, we can't conceive of Vaikuntha. Everything there is divine and conscious, and all serving Lakshmi and Narayan, all of it, every dust, everything, fully conscious, full of devotion. So this is perfection. But then Guru Maharaj is explaining, all of our gurus are explaining, there's perfect, more perfect, most more than most perfect. There's gradations within perfection. So we have to honor everything very, very carefully, like keeping all of that on our head. We can't even conceive of heaven, and that's like still a place of death. I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, but I was like, I mean, I was sitting in the park, and there was some music playing. I did mention this, didn't I?
In the second class, though.
Huh?
You mentioned that in the second class.
In the second class. And I was just thinking, we are so attracted to the sound of death. And that the analogy of the camel eating thorns is really, it always comes into my mind. Because we are actually enjoying the thralls of death. It's actually horrific. But because of addiction, we think, oh, I just need to get this thing and then I'm going to be happy. But this thing is not making anyone happy. It's making our situation worse and worse. So, in order to really begin to understand something about the quality of the divine plane, of the spiritual plane, and the gradations within those planes, Vaikuntha, from the Upadesamrta, I'm looking at this verse now, how these gradations, Vaikuntha higher is that, higher than Vaikuntha is? Mathura. Yeah, where Krishna
was born.
Yes, because there's birth. Because there's divine birth, of course not birth like in this world, but there is that relationship there of parent and child. That's a higher relationship than what can be found in Vaikuntha. But they are all so high. And then above that, of course, is Vrindavan, where the Rasa dance takes place. Above that is Govardhan, where so many inconceivable pastimes are going on. And above that, in the highest plane, is Radha Kunda. So these are all gradations within perfection.
Didi, is Mahaprabhu given entrance to Vrindavan or Radha Kunda or Govardhan? That's something that I've always struggled understanding what is what in relation to us.
The Rupa Goswami is the leader of our sampradaya. That is established by Mahaprabhu, fully established. Everyone is a follower of Rupa Goswami. Rupa Goswami's position is in the highest kind of service to Radha and Krishna. And that is what Mahaprabhu came to give. And what, we read that prayer by Srila Guru Maharaj to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, giving the gradations of what is to be attained in spiritual practice, and what is the perfection of that. We should read that.
Is that in
Particularly well.
Upadesamrta?
No.
Where is it?
No, we can find it. But anyway, it's a prayer, it's a prayer to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur by Guru Maharaj. But what is our Guru Varga able to bestow in our heart? That is so high. It is far, far beyond our conception now. But it is something that somehow or other, by their grace, we are able to have some appreciation for by studying the gradations of spiritual consciousness. And this is what is being given here right now by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj. Jai Mahaprabhu, Jai Giriraj. It is what's being given right now by Srila Krishna Das Kaviraj so that we can understand carefully and systematically what it is that Mahaprabhu came to taste, his internal reasons, and in tasting that, distributing that. So we have to apply our intelligence. I remember when I first joined the temple, and we were reading, we didn't have the full Chaitanya Charitamrta. It was coming volume by volume. And Bhagavatam coming volume by volume. It hadn't all been, Srila Prabhupada was working on these books. And as he finished them, publishing them. And then they would come out, oh, there's a new Bhagavatam. But I remember in the very beginning, one should use his intelligence to understand the mercy of Mahaprabhu, of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And I thought, that's what we have to do. We have to apply our intelligence to understand what is the quality of this mercy by definitive study and by systematic understanding of what is attainable in spiritual practice. Then we'll understand, oh my goodness, that's what Mahaprabhu came to give. So these things are important. And I remember that Srila Prabhupada once, in a letter, and I think he sent this letter to all of the temples, and saying, I am giving you these books. I'm not giving them to you so they sit on the shelf. I'm giving them to you to read. Read them. Read these books. Understand what's going on. This is Sambandha Gyan. And also Abhideya Gyan, how to practice. What is the nature of real practice? What is surrender? And of course, Prayojan, we're always simply worshiping that, as is being said now. This Ragapata, that we can aspire for in the inner core of our heart, knowing, well, if we can find the inner core of our heart, knowing that this is something so unattainable, but still we have been given permission and even given encouragement. You try for this. Try for this. Not, oh no, you're cut off from this. You cannot do it. But we should also understand what is the gradation of purity for such pastimes, such self-giving, self-sacrifice of such a nature, so pure. You see, the thing is, by hearing about these, our minds become purified. And we can develop a taste for purity. That, it's so pure, so high, so sweet. Because now our taste for purity is a little vague. We have a very low taste. So we must punya shravana kirtana. Just by hearing and chanting these things, it is giving us piety and a taste.
Maybe that's where regulated service for us and practices is important.
Our day must be filled with seva. There has to be seva going on. Otherwise, Srila Prabhupada used to say, if you do not fill the glass with milk, there will be room for ink. So we have to be active, looking around, what needs to be done? What can I do? And suddenly, simply by wondering about that, many things will come to our eye that require our attention that we didn't notice. And another thing about devotional service, it's hard to get something started. It's hard to get motion begun. But once begun, we have to maintain it. Otherwise, when we don't have engagement, when we're not looking around, what happens? We become lazy. And you know what happens when we become lazy? We become grouchy.
What is grouchy?
We become dissatisfied and impatient and grumpy, angry. We don't want to do it. How come they're not doing it? But if we're constantly engaged, that doesn't happen. We're just happy, just going on, doing, seeing what needs to be done. And the Lord is reciprocating. It's not dead. So don't roll to a stop. When we have time, think, okay, what needs to be done? And suddenly, oh yeah, this needs to be done. But when we're in the mode of ignorance, I'm getting, and I'm going, when we roll to a stop, we stop noticing things because the mode of ignorance is not very observant. And then it's hard to get started again. So those especially who are living in the temple must be, try to be busy all the time, looking and seeing what has to, of course, as possible by us. But really, it's important. We want a happy, busy temple. And of course, this is a happy, busy temple. But we have to keep that momentum of service going on. And also, we don't want to be told what to do all the time, right? We have to take the task into our own heart. Nobody wants to be told what to do all the time. It's not a high-class thinking. Well, some people do, and that's their nature. But if possible, look around and tell yourself what to do. And then when new people are coming, you can help them also. But we want to be independent in one sense and thinking what needs to be done. Not that, because when you're told what to do, then you become dependent. No one told me to do that. You know what I mean? We have to engage our intelligence and our everything and just look around that does happen here. I see that, of course. I'm just saying in a general sense, in temples, in families, or in anywhere where devotion is being encouraged. We want to be the contributor, to think of what can be done. And then we get more responsibility. Gurudev said that the best football player, he's the one that everybody throws the ball to, right? He's the one who gets the ball, the one who's out there really working and looking to see what's going on. They'll throw the ball to him. He'll get the... So that's... all these principles are there, and we try to remember them. And then we're feeling satisfied. Otherwise, that grumpy, lazy thing that comes in when we're not engaged, what do you call it? A joy kill? Kill joy?
joy killer?
Yeah, or killjoy, I think that's the number one killjoy. Getting lazy. Because it just takes away all the light. Okay, so we went over a little bit. Well, anyway, so here's, again, verse 10, Srila Guru Maharaj's wonderful commentary on this beautiful verse of gradation again. This is all about gradation. And Jai Srila Rupa Goswami ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Rakak Sri Dev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. We are now on page 287 of this Upadesamrta. Haribol, the highest conception of theism is found here in this description of Radharani. Deva Krishna Mai Prokta Radhika Paradevata Sarva Lakshmi Mai Sarva Kanti Samohini Para. She is known as Devi, Krishna Mai, Radhika, Paradevi, Sarva Lakshmi Mai, Sarvakanti, Samohini, and Para. Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj has explained, Krishna Mai, Krishna Yara, Bitare, Bahire, Jahan, Jahan, Netrapade, Taha, Krishna Spure. That's in the Adi Lila chapter 4. So we're about to read that. Radharani is known as Krishna Mai, which means that the sweetest figure is within and without her. And wherever she casts a glance, he is there. Sweetest figure within and without. Within and without are not different, actually, in the spiritual plane, in the spiritual form. But in one sense, you could say that. She has this, her form, I mean, the form of her devotional heart is the sweetest. And therefore, wherever she looks, Krishna is there. It is as if he is created by her glance. This has been told about Radharani. Within her is Krishna, outside of her is Krishna. Wherever she cares to cast her glance, it is as if she's producing Krishna there. Krishna always appears there. So one might say, well, what about when she's feeling separation from Krishna? Then is where she looks, she sees Krishna. Yes, in a deeper form. The form of separation is deeper, more intense. She is also described here as Sarva Lakshmi Mai. She represents all sorts of Lakshmi, all sorts of divine potency. All different potencies of divinity are within her and emanating from her body. Sarvakanti, all luster, that is knowledge, different conceptions of theism emanate from her body. Samohini, divine potency is found in her to such an intensity that everyone loses their senses in her connection. No independence, that's what that means. Losing your senses means no independence. Overcome. Every conception of Lakshmi, of opulence, of beauty, of sweetness, of charm, of devotion, of everything, all of it is fully represented in her. And the Lakshmis are expansions of her. She is the origin of all, and the emblem, the pinnacle of everything. More than the pinnacle, she is the origin. She's it. All of those things are personified in her. She is also described here as Sarva Lakshmi Mai. Okay. Samohini, divine potency is found in her to such an intensity that everyone who has connection with her loses their senses. Their sense of themselves is overtaken by that wonder. She is orchestrating all the service. And everyone is in that orchestra. To overtake no independent. If some independent person is in an orchestra, what happens? What happens?
An independent person.
Yeah, someone who's got their own ideas sitting in an orchestra. No, I want to be myself. Discord. Becomes discord. Everything is in harmony in the divine plane. In harmony with what? In harmony with her. Madhura Rasa is Mool Rasa. It is the root of all the other rasas. And all the other rasas are contained in Madhura Rasa. So that's very nice. Short and sweet.
So independency leads to this harmony.
Yeah, another reason for being. This is why there's so much discord. Everybody has their own reason for being. And so some societies are so strict in everyone's behavior. You cannot show any independence. And that is artificial harmony.
Like China.
China, you look at Nazi Germany, or any of those really, really, really suppressive
North Korea.
realms. Yeah, you're going to get this artificial harmony.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like harmony, but everything, it becomes reduced to almost a stone.
Yeah. Because the center is something false.
Yeah. But when the center is the center, everything becomes inconceivably harmonious. It's a living wonder. And that wonder is constantly manifesting in different ways, new ways. Everything is new and everything is wondrous in devotion. And it's spontaneous. That means your real self. Not this artificial mind self, which is like being haunted by a ghost. Your real self has its full play there. Nothing is restricting it. You who you really are has its full play in that play. No restriction. Here we're restricted by so many things. We're restricted by time. And what is time? The destroyer. Know these things to be certain. Know it to be certain. Look at it carefully. We don't have to keep blinds over our eyes in case we see something that is we can look and it will confirm everything we're being taught. We will not be disappointed. Knowledge is so nice. I mean, even knowledge, even this knowledge is so nice, so bracing, so yes, so exhilarating. What to speak of devotion. Jai Shri Upadesamrta ki Jai, Shri Rupa Goswami ki Jai, Jai Shri Upanuga Guru Varga ki Jai. Can I have a little paragraph?
Yes.
Or you can just put it on.
Okay. Hare Nama Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopal Govinda Ram Madhusudana Giridhari Gopinath Madanamotana Chaitanya Nityananda Sri Advaita Chandra Dadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Rupa Sanatana Vata Raghunatha Jiva Gopala Vata Dasa Raghunatha Jai Gosai Kori Charana Bandana Jahute Nana Savishta Purana Jai Gosai Jara Mui Taradasa Tasavara Pada Renu Mora Panchagrasa Charana Seri Vata Sanivasa Janame Janame Mora Avilasa Jai Gosai Jave Vraje Koilavasa Rasa Krishna Nitya Lila Kurila Prakasha Anande Guru Hari Vaja Vrindavana Guru Vaishnava Pare Majai Jamana Guru Vaishnava Para Padma Kuriyasa Harinama Sankirtana Koke Charitamrta Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol
Jai Jai Shri Guru Chanju Ki Jai Jai Shri Guru Chanju Ki Jai Jai Shri Sapari Brajakacharya Astadev Srila Bhakti Sundar Govindadev Goswami Jai Jai Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Hari Brajakacharya Astadev Srila Bhakti Rakshri Hare Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Shri Rupa Nuga Guru Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Acharya Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Sarva Goswami Prabhu Ki Jai Saparsha Sriman Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Saparsha Shri Nityananda Prabhu Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyama Kunara Thakur Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Maha Ki Jai Tadya Thakur Ki Jai Shri Chaitanya Saraswat Mission Ki Jai Kartam ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Samayana Vaishnava Mandala ki Jai, Samayana Bhaktivinoda ki Jai, Jai Kanti Vrata ki Jai, Jai Srimati Tulsi Devi ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi Hari Bol.
Jai Srimati Srila
Jai Gurudev Hari Bol. Jai Gurudev. Hari Bol. Dandavat, Prabhu. Huh? Jai. Dandavat, Dandavat. Okay, let's take Mahaprasadam.